Have you ever wondered who really started the Second World War? It's a question that has been debated by historians for decades. Was it Germany, with its aggressive expansion under Hitler? Or the USSR, with its own political machinations and strategies? Or are there other factors at play that we often overlook? It's a complex question with no simple answers. But it's a question worth exploring. Today, we will explore the events leading up to the start of the war. Our journey begins in 1919, with the Treaty of Versailles. The ink was barely dry on this historic document when its profound impact began to reverberate throughout Germany. This wasn't just a peace accord, it was a verdict, a judgment passed on Germany by the victors of the First World War. Let's delve a bit deeper into the key terms of the treaty. First, the War Guilt Clause. Germany was held solely responsible for the war, a burden that weighed heavily on the nation's psyche. This wasn't just about blame, it was about financial liability. This leads us to the second term, reparations. Germany was ordered to pay astronomical sums to the Allies, a financial strain that crippled the German economy and left the country in a state of perpetual poverty and indignity. The sum was so huge it was like trying to fill a bottomless pit, and it plunged Germany into an economic abyss from which it struggled to recover. Next on the list, territorial losses. The treaty stripped Germany of substantial territories, shrinking its borders and reducing its influence. This wasn't just about land, it was about pride. For many Germans, these terms were seen as a national humiliation, a blow to their identity and their status as a world power. The Treaty of Versailles was like a wound that wouldn't heal, a constant reminder of Germany's defeat and humiliation. It bred resentment among the German people who felt betrayed and unfairly treated. This resentment gradually morphed into a desire for revenge, a longing to regain lost territories, and a drive to restore national pride. This, in turn, laid the groundwork for the rise of extreme nationalist movements, most notably the Nazis under Adolf Hitler. The treaty was meant to ensure peace, but in reality, it did the opposite. Its harsh terms and the resentment they kindled served only to fan the flames of future conflict. The Treaty of Versailles was, in many ways, a ticking time bomb, waiting for the right set of circumstances to ignite. The seeds of the Second World War were unwittingly sown. Fast forward to 1933, a charismatic figure rises to power in Germany, Adolf Hitler. This man, a decorated veteran of the First World War, found the political climate ripe for his radical ideologies. The economic desperation caused by the Great Depression, coupled with the national humiliation following the Treaty of Versailles, created a fertile ground for Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party as it's commonly known. Hitler promised the German people a return to national pride and economic prosperity. His charismatic speeches and powerful rhetoric rallied the masses, and by 1933 he was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Once in power, Hitler quickly consolidated his rule, transforming Germany into a totalitarian state. The Führer, as Hitler was known, was a firm believer in racial purity and German supremacy. His vision of a racially pure Germany involved the extermination of those he considered racially inferior, particularly Jews. This led to the Holocaust, one of the most horrific genocides in human history. But Hitler's ambitions were not limited to Germany. He sought to expand German territory, in direct violation of the Treaty of Versailles. His aggressive foreign policy was clear from the onset. In 1935, Hitler began rearming Germany, building a powerful military machine. He then proceeded to annex Austria in 1938, unifying it with Germany in what was known as Anschluss. In 1939, Hitler set his sights on Czechoslovakia, annexing the Sudetenland, a region with a significant German-speaking population. Despite protests from the international community, Hitler was undeterred. His aggressive expansion was a clear indication of his disregard for the Versailles Treaty and a foreshadowing of the war to come. Hitler's rise to power and his expansionist policies set the stage for the Second World War, the most devastating conflict in human history. His rule was marked by extreme nationalism, racial purity, and aggressive expansionism, ideologies that would lead to unimaginable destruction and loss of life. Hitler's aggressive expansion was a clear violation of the Versailles Treaty. In 1939, Hitler made a surprising move. He signed a Non-Aggression Pact with the Soviet Union. Now, why was this so shocking, you may ask? Well, these two nations were ideologically poles apart. Germany, under Hitler's rule, was a fascist state, while the Soviet Union, led by Stalin, was a communist nation. These two political ideologies were fundamentally at odds with each other. So, a pact between them? That was unexpected, to say the least. This pact is known as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, named after the foreign ministers of the two nations, Vyacheslav Molotov of the Soviet Union and Joachim von Ribbentrop of Germany. Signed on the 23rd of August 1939, this agreement pledged that both nations would remain neutral if either one were to go to war with a third party. On the surface, it was a promise of peace. But beneath that, there was a darker, hidden agreement. This darker side was known as the Secret Protocol. It was a covert agreement for the partition of Poland, a nation that lay between Germany and the Soviet Union. This secret protocol was a blueprint for how these two powerful nations planned to carve up Poland like a pie, each taking a slice for themselves. This was not just a pact of non-aggression, it was a plan for aggression against another nation. Why did they do this? Well, Hitler wanted a free hand to expand Germany's territory without interference from the Soviets. Stalin, on the other hand, saw this as an opportunity to regain territories lost in previous wars. It was a win-win situation for both of them, but a death knell for Poland. This pact, this surprising alliance between two ideologically opposed nations, set the chessboard for the next big move. It was a tactical maneuver that would have far-reaching consequences, not just for Poland, but for the entire world. This pact set the stage for the imminent invasion of Poland. On September 1, 1939, the world held its breath as Germany invaded Poland. This act of aggression marked the onset of a conflict that would soon engulf the entire globe. The invasion of Poland was not a random act of violence, but rather a calculated move by Adolf Hitler and his Nazi regime to reclaim territories lost during the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler's forces, armed with the Blitzkrieg or lightning war strategy, moved with alarming speed. The Polish army, although valiant, was ill-prepared to face the German war machine. The Blitzkrieg was a new form of warfare, combining speed, firepower, and close coordination between ground and air forces to achieve swift victories. In less than a month, Poland's defense lines crumbled under the weight of the German onslaught. Simultaneously, the Soviet Union, under the secret terms of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, also invaded Poland from the east. This act effectively divided Poland between the two powers, marking the beginning of a dark chapter in Polish history. The invasion of Poland was a blatant violation of international law, and it sent shockwaves around the world. Britain and France, bound by treaties to protect Polish sovereignty, were left with no choice but to respond. On September 3, 1939, just 2 days after the German invasion, Britain and France declared war on Germany. They stood up against the Nazi aggression, signaling their commitment to uphold international law and the security of independent nations. This was the spark that ignited the Second World War, a war that would last for 6 long and bloody years, a war that would see the rise and fall of empires, a war that would redefine the concept of total war. The invasion of Poland was not just about territory or power, it was a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the very soul of humanity. The Second World War had begun, changing the course of history forever. Never before had a conflict been so global in its scope, so devastating in its impact, and so profound in its consequences. The world would never be the same again. So who really started the Second World War? To fully grasp the answer, we need to revisit the pivotal moments we've discussed so far. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in the aftermath of the First World War, was a key milestone. Its harsh conditions imposed on Germany created a fertile ground for resentment and discontent, which eventually led to the rise of Adolf Hitler. Hitler, driven by a fervor for Aryan supremacy and a desire to overturn the treaty, rapidly militarized Germany, setting the stage for a potential conflict. Another crucial event was the Non-Aggression Pact signed between Germany and the USSR. Cloaked in the guise of peace, this pact was essentially a green light for both nations to expand their territories without fear of retaliation from each other. And then, the war began. The invasion of Poland by Germany, followed by the USSR, marked the start of the deadliest conflict in human history. So the question of who really started the Second World War isn't as straightforward as it might seem. It wasn't the act of a single nation, but a domino effect of decisions and events, a tangled web of ambitions and agreements. The Second World War was a result of a complex mix of historical events and decisions. It's a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked aggression and the importance of peace.